Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to Abnormal Voyages. My name is David, and today we find ourselves in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are here at the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum to learn all about these iconic and fun collectibles. Bob along with us.
We're going to a place that you've never heard of before. It's Abnormal Voyages. You're gonna learn something new. We're gonna open new doors. It's Abnormal Voyages.
Collecting things is a big hobby for a lot of people, and among one of the most popular things for people to collect is bobbleheads. As a matter of fact, Phil Sklar and Brad Novak liked collecting bobbleheads so much that they founded the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame. Appropriately, we begin with the history of bobbleheads. They have an entire wall here with a timeline from the very beginning of bobbleheads to where it is today. Bobbleheads got their start in the early 1700s in China with nodding head figures that were soon imported into Europe. In 1842, they were mentioned in a Russian short story called The Overcoat, and then by the 1960s, they began creating player bobbleheads of popular sports figures at the time. The Beatles became some of the first non-sports related bobbleheads, and this set still remains as one of the most popular and valuable sets ever created. Interest in bobbleheads waned for a little bit, but in 1999, the Giants baseball team did a giveaway for people attending the game, and just like that, the flame was reunited, and bobbleheads became just as popular as ever. In 2019, this museum and Hall of Fame opened up, and they inducted their very first bobblehead, which was this right here, Mr. Peter Rose, with his iconic bobblehead sliding into home. But this is just the beginning of how many people have been turned into bobbleheads. And in this section, we have very notable heroes, celebrities, people who've made a true impact on the world. It stretches all the way down and around the corner, kind of encircling the entire museum. You have wonderful figures such as Vince Lombardi, Harry Houdini, Hank Aaron. It runs the gamut from people who made a difference. Everybody here has certainly made their impact in different ways, but I feel like they had just a little bit of bias in putting people with ties to Wisconsin over here, which is, of course, understandable considering where the museum is located. But overall, this does a fantastic job of showing you just how unique all these bobbleheads can be. They have people from all walks of life and all different types of fame represented here, along with a little biography about them, so you can learn just what makes them so special. Now, even though these are some very deserving people and bobbleheads, it's important to note that these are not, at least yet, in the official Bobblehead Hall of Fame. All of these could definitely be up for consideration, but what happens is members of the Bobblehead Hall of Fame will each take a vote, and every year a small select grouping will be allowed to pass on into the actual Hall of Fame itself. For now, these ones will have to be satisfied with being a part of this, the Hall of Heroes. Let's take a quick look at how bobbleheads are actually made. Like everything, a bobblehead begins as an idea. From there, a graphic design artist will draw it up, they'll send it off to the factory will send them a mold to show them what it looks like, and after approval, the bobblehead will be made. Here are some stages of a bobblehead as it was being created. After these were reviewed and said, yes, that's good, it gets all painted and looks just like that. As we saw in the history wall, 1999 was a big year for bobbleheads. That was the very first stadium giveaway of a bobblehead. It was by the San Francisco Giants, and here is that actual bobblehead. They have it preserved so that everyone can see the figure that brought bobbleheads back to prominence. Prominence is the right word, because bobbleheads are popular all over the world. This is a map of people who have just visited here, and as you can see, they're from all over. And what would any museum be without their very own theme song? In 2015, Pat McCurdy, who is immortalized here in his very own bobblehead, wrote a theme song all about the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. Let's give it a listen as we take a look at some of this amazing collection.
Bobblehead, bobblehead, bob-bob-bobblehead, bobblehead, bobblehead, bob-bob-bobblehead. If you wanna see heads bobble up and down, bobblehead, bobblehead, bob-bob-bobblehead. The most bobbling heads the world around, bobblehead, bobblehead, bob-bob-bobblehead. Superstar athletes and VIP, bobblehead, bobblehead, bob-bob-bobblehead. Politicians, actors, and celebrities, bobblehead, bobblehead, bob-bob-bobblehead. Where can you go to see him? At the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. The National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. Where can you go to see him? At the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. Bobblehead, bobblehead, bob-bob-bobblehead. The National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. Bobblehead, the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. The National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. The National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum.
Well, that's certainly a very catchy song that'll have everybody head bobbing. As I'm sure you can tell, sports figures are by far probably the most popular version of bobbleheads. And that makes sense considering the history of where they came from, and sports is really what made them a big thing. But it has far outgrown the sports genre. These days, almost any character you can think of, any person, they have been made into one of these lovable bobbleheads. Most of them have several bobbleheads made of them. I particularly loved the Lion King and Toy Story bobbleheads, but tons of Disney characters are represented, and then even some holiday figures like Santa and the Universal movie monsters. Mascots are another field where bobbleheads have always been super popular, but besides sports mascots, plenty of corporations and companies have gotten in on that, so anybody you like, you can grab and have them sitting there bobbing along on your desk. The museum itself is the world's largest collection of bobbleheads, with thousands upon thousands of different, unique bobbleheads on display. I believe there's a little over 10,000 located in this hoard. With numbers like that, it's almost impossible for anybody to come in here and not find at least one or two bobbleheads that they completely fall in love with. That being said, there are still a few bobbleheads out there that you're not going to find at the museum. Some of them are super rare, such as the world's largest bobblehead, which is 15.5 feet in height, and is a depiction of a St. Bernard dog. That is one big puppy. Touching on another popular collectible, bobbleheads were actually one of the early products that the Funko Corporation made. It's pretty easy to look at modern Funko Pop figures and see the bobblehead inspiration. As a matter of fact, some of the Pop figures are still bobbleheads to this day. And though people may not think it, bobbleheads are actually classified somewhat in the antique category when it comes to some of the older and more valuable ones. Considering they started in the early 1700s, bobbleheads are technically older than the United States of America. However, a lot of these older bobbleheads were made of ceramic, so were definitely a little more fragile than what we're used to today. For a while, that switched over to paper mache, which made the production much cheaper, but again, not quite as durable. Landing on the plastic and such that we use today was definitely the right move. Though most Major League sports franchises now have certain days where they'll give away bobbleheads to lucky fans who happen to be attending the game that day, baseball still remains the #1 in number of bobbleheads they gift. In some seasons, the MLB will give away more than 1 million bobbleheads. Even for people who may not be big sports fans, these are really cool collectibles just to have hanging around. And if you can't happen to find the exact bobblehead you're looking for, or maybe you even want to turn yourself into a bobblehead, there are now corporations out there that'll make you a custom bobblehead of yourself or anybody else that you'd like to see turned into a collectible. It's been a long road for bobbleheads to get to where they are today. But with a near infinite amount of characters, colors, and poses to choose from, it looks like they're going to do nothing but continue to get more and more popular. What a great story.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, adventurers. Thanks for tagging along. My name is David, and this has been Abnormal Voyages. We'll see you next time.